It's time now to go back to Zechariah chapter number 6, because Zechariah now supplies some more information that we have not had previously. I'd like for you to read verse 6 and 8. We stopped at verse number 5 in our reading. Now listen as Eddie reads verse 6 through 8.
The black horses which are therein go forth into the north country.
Okay, now stop right there. To me, this is amazing. The Bible tells us here that the black horses, that's capitalism, would go forth into the north country. So, where are the capitalist countries? They're in the northern hemisphere. 80% of the world's wealth is in the northern hemisphere. Almighty God, 2,600 years ago, here in Zechariah, Eddie, says that capitalism would be in the northern hemisphere. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we actually have a rivalry in our world today called the North versus the South, the haves versus the have-nots. This is not a new thing. It's not caught God by surprise. 2,600 years ago, he told us this would be the case, and he wanted us to know this for some reason. Now, there's something else said to us in the next verse. Read it for us.
And the white go forth after him.
Okay, so that means that Catholicism has followed capitalism into the northern hemisphere. And of course, Catholicism, especially in Europe, has been the dominant religion there for a long, long time. But now the next verse tells us something totally different. Listen to it.
And the grizzled go forth toward the south country. And the bay went forth and sought to go that they might walk to and fro through the earth.
Now, why in the world would this passage tell us that the grizzled go to the south country? Let's remember what the grizzled and bay horses symbolize. They symbolize poverty, disease, famine. Where are your poverty-stricken nations located in our world? South America, Africa. Of course, they're in the southern hemisphere. Almighty God said, this is the spirit that will dominate in the south countries. Poverty, disease, famine. There are countries in Africa where the life expectancy is 40 years of age. In some of the nations of Africa right now, 50% of the population now has the terrible disease of AIDS. There's death everywhere there. Almighty God said that the pale horse rider was death, and it would go forth into the south countries, in particular, the part of this that was represented by the horse that represented poverty, disease, and famine. And then the death rider is through the earth, no matter where you go, the hospitals, the airports, the highways, everywhere. This death horse rider was to be throughout the entire earth. So we see here a picture of spirits that control the world. You wonder, why do things happen? Why is Africa poverty-stricken? They have as many natural resources as we do. They're incredibly wealthy in natural resources, and yet they're mired in these cycles of poverty. It's because there is a spirit that controls these people. Why are the people in the northern hemisphere so industrious and so ambitious and so driving? It's because there is a spirit that has captivated them and is dominating everything that they do.
Let me read verse 8 here. It goes right along with that. Then cried he unto me and spake unto me, saying, Behold, these that go toward the north country have quieted my spirit in the north country.
This is something all of us as Christians should look at right now, because this is saying that the spirits that went into the north country have caused the Spirit of God to be quiet and not active. When you hear about great spiritual revivals in our world, does it happen in Europe? Is it happening in America that much? No, it's not. When you hear of the big revivals, we're talking about Ethiopia, we're talking about the Philippines, places like that don't have a lot of wealth, because the spirit of capitalism has quieted God's spirit. Let's face it, we don't really have enough time right now in America to have a great revival. The man is working, the woman is working, the children have jobs, sometimes the man has 2 jobs. Everybody is going as fast as they could go, and if we wanted to have a great revival, we simply would not be able to crowd it into our life. And Almighty God saw that condition existing. I think if these are being watched here in America, let me talk to you Americans and any of you, the rest of you that live in a capitalist country right now. You may never be willing to pledge allegiance to communism or maybe even Catholicism. Maybe you don't believe in those particular ideologies, but you are hook, line, and sinker under the sway of capitalism. I mean, you're moving so fast that you have no time to pray, no time to go to church. And so even though two of these spirits has no influence over you, or maybe even three, you've got this black horse spirit. We cannot really, Eddie, we can't really elevate capitalism and free enterprise above these others. They all will take a person away from God.
I was always under the impression capitalism good, communism bad. But here the Bible is painting a picture, and you're doing a very nice job in embellishing that, in that capitalism, the spirit of capitalism, is not good. It quiets God's spirit.
It does, and we've seen that over and over again. So when we draw all this information together that God has provided for us here, there are several conclusions that I want to point out to you, because we're going to need this information later. If you're going to understand what is going on right now in our world, you have to understand the identity of the four horsemen, or else nothing makes sense to you. We've come through a tremendous campaign of disinformation. When the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, everyone said socialism is dead, free enterprise won. And yet here we are 12 short years later, and of the 15 members of the European Common Market, which were capitalist nations before the Berlin Wall fell, 13 of the 15 have now voted in socialistic governments. And America is moving very rapidly into socialism right now. So did socialism die, or did it in fact win? Did the communists let the wall fall and wrap up the Iron Curtain because they knew they had won the ideological battle on both sides of the Iron Curtain? That appears to in fact be the truth. Now, what does that mean to us right now? When you go to Revelation chapter 17 and get a glimpse of the end time one world government of the Antichrist, it's a very interesting picture. Now, we've already talked about the seven-headed, ten-horned beast of Revelation chapter 13. We proved in lesson 2 that that is the symbol of the one world government. New world order is world government. It's all depicted in the symbolism of the combined beast with the body of the leopard, the feet of the bear, the mouth of the lion, the 10 horns of the 10-horn kingdom. Now then we see the same beast in Revelation 17, only we're told one more thing about it. That beast is a red beast. When everyone was saying to me back in 1989 that socialism has died, communism is dead, I only shook my head. I knew it was not true, because in Revelation chapter number 17, we have absolute proof that the one world government of the end time will be a socialistic government. So consequently from that, we're able to understand what powers really are in control here and why God gave us this marvelous lesson of the four horsemen. It's a very interesting insight.